be good. Okay, back in the trailer this afternoon. Gonna be working on the power for the trailer. I've got my breaker panel set up here. This one's a 125 amp, came with the bus bar already installed. I've got it set up here because I plan to run my power line from the generator plug behind the wall here, and it's going to come up and into the top of this unit here. And then I'm going to install a receptacle on the outside of the trailer to plug my generator into, or to plug shore power in if the place has it. Here is where my generator is going to be plugged into. This is a 30 amp 120 or 240 volt, which I'm going to wire it up for 240. That's why we have 4 switches here. There's going to be 2 hot wires, 120 each, essentially going to my breaker box, and then allowing me to run breakers on the left side with 120 power and breakers on the right side with 120 power. So allows me to utilize a much bigger generator and tap into that extra power. So this is what I have here. I still need to get it sealed up with some Dicor tape, but I've got it installed there, and you saw the line going on the inside and coming in here. So if I can open this up for you. So this is what it looks like right now. I don't have it wired up, but I have the wires there. So you can see here, this is 8 gauge wire, which is rated for more than 30 amps. So especially since I'm only running 6 feet up the wall here, so I only got 6 foot of line with the 8 gauge wire. But you can see here the 4 wires, those are going to plug in. The 3 are going to go in there too. This one's got the ground connected to the box, so I'm going to run the ground and screw it into the box here. The other 3 wires will go into the plug. So it's as simple as that. I've got a cable clamp going through the knockout here, so this is nice and secure, and then I also have it clamped going up. But this is how I ran it coming up. So that's where it comes through. I routed it over to this wall support here and anchored it down on the wall support. And I'm taking it all the way up to here, and I'm going to have my breaker box right here, so it's going to come through the top of the breaker box. So that's what it's looking like right now. All of these lines here are going out to outlets. I've got them all labeled here by what breaker switch I want and what outlet they're going to. So these here and that one there, and bring over. So this is 12 gauge wire for my 20 amp plugs, and this is the 14 gauge wire for any 15 amp plugs or switches. So the 15 amp here I'm running over, and it's actually going to go down, and I'm going to have a switch right here, or not a switch, I'm sorry, an outlet right here. And then it's going to go up, and I'm running it like this above my installation. It's going to go up and over here and come down to where I have a switch for my water pump right here, and then it's going to continue down here to my water pump outlet. I've just got my water pump laying here to make sure that it's actually gonna reach up there. So I've got that there, and then my water heater is gonna be over here. Kind of just labeled everything on the wood panels because they're all gonna get covered up with aluminum. So after that, my other 15 amp line, my 14 gauge line, is coming over here to this triple switch. And this is going to control my interior lights, my exterior lights, and the vent fan up here. So I've run that power from the breaker panel over to here. So that's the power in. I was just making sure it's going to fit in this shallow box, which is going to be actually really hard to fit it in there, but we're going to make it work because we've got all 3 of these 15 amp lines going inside of there as well. I went ahead and created this trailer diagram to show how the wires are ran in my trailer. I think it's a little easier to understand than actually showing you in the video in the trailer. So I've got my circuit number 5 coming out of my breaker panel at the front of the trailer, and it is running across to my toggle switch, which I later updated that toggle switch to being a 2-toggle switch for my interior lights and exterior lights. My exterior light wire runs to the back of the trailer and is connected to a 12-volt power supply to power those 12-volt lights. And then my interior lights are ran through the ceiling. You can see how I routed that wire. And then the last is that wire is actually directly powered. It's not switched. It's ran to the 12-volt power supply in my roof vent and then connected to the switch in the roof vent. The last wire on this side of the trailer is that 12-gauge Romex running to the 2 outlets next to my concession window. And then it ends at the back of the trailer for possibly some extra outlets or exterior outlets. So next I'll show you the other side of the trailer, and I've got a diagram for that as well. This side of the trailer is going to have 4 outlets for all my major appliances. So I'm running 12-gauge Romex through the corner here. And the reason I did that is so I would only have to drill holes through the frame to bring the wires down to the outlets. In each hole that I drilled, I used these plastic cable connectors to protect the wire. And that way I didn't have to run wires through every single wall stud in the trailer, and saved me a lot of drilling. So this cable comes down and connects to the first outlet on the circuit, and I installed this outlet further down to the ground since I'm probably going to be hooking up a fridge there. So this is the cable that comes in from the breaker panel, and the other cable is running back out servicing the next outlet on this circuit. And here it runs along and comes down and ends at this outlet. So I've got 2 outlets on this circuit, and again, these are 20 amp outlets, so I can run pretty heavy duty appliances. So you can see here where it runs up and back down and over to where my breaker panel is going to be, and you can see that a little easier once I show you the diagram. The other 2 outlets do the exact same thing. They come over and run down. That's where the first outlet's going to be, and it goes back up and over and down to another lower outlet on this side. So now I'll show you that diagram so you can get a better picture of what it actually looks like. So the driver's side electrical diagram shows those 4 outlets that I just walked you through on the side there. The circuit 1 and circuit 2 with the 12-gauge Romex. And then at the front of the trailer, going to my breaker panel, I also have my main power service cord going out to that 30 amp inlet, which I showed you previously, but this is a good picture to show you exactly how that comes in from the outside and runs up into the top of that breaker panel. And then on the front of the V, I've got my circuit number 3, which is 14-gauge Romex going to my first GFCI outlet, and then the power goes back up and over and then down to my water pump switch, and then down to my water pump outlet, which is also a GFCI. So that is all the electrical wiring in the trailer. And next I'm going to be working on setting up my electrical boxes in the ceiling for the lights, because tomorrow we'll be installing the ceiling panels and finishing that up. I am working on putting in the electrical for the lights. So what I've done is I actually cut out this opening for my box. This is for the recessed lights, so it actually fits in there just perfect. And then here's where I've got marked for my light to come out, so that'll come out of the hole. I'll screw in the recessed lights to it, and it will be good to go. So I've got one here, and then I'm going to cut this one out, put it in there. connect these. And this one up here. And one's here. What you do, you can actually see it come through in there, so you know it's in there good. And ground, neutral to neutral, just like that. Hot. So there you go, now wired up. And those back in the box. And then I go right into the ceiling, just like that. Here's how you control the temperature. So I think I'm gonna run all of these at the 5,000 Kelvin, which is the lightest light. It's good for a workspace. So I'm gonna run them all at 5,000. Make sure this one matches. Yep. Probably run some duct tape on that one, but once the ceiling's up here, these boxes are about 1 inch and this tubing's 1 inch, so the ceiling's actually going to hold that box in there, and then with this foam around it, it's not going to move anywhere. So that's how it's going to be. My light is going to be right here, right here. I'll wire the breaker box up and move on to the next one. Okay, so I've got all of my boxes wired up for my ceiling lights, ready to put the ceiling panels up now. So what I've got here is, got these just pigtailed together. This is my last light, goes to that one, comes up here to this box. This is where my exhaust vent is gonna be. It goes over to that light, and up there to that one, over to the last light, and then the cable comes in, it goes behind the wall here to my switches. So this is where I'm gonna have my switch for interior lights, exterior lights, and then I also have the power for the exhaust vent right there as well. My vent actually has a switch on it, so I'm just gonna power it into the breaker, so it always has power. Well, that's a wrap for the electrical rough-in. I used about 150 feet of Romex cable, 10 cable connectors, 3 rolls of insulation, 4 sheets of foam, 10 feet of service cable, a power inlet box, and a breaker panel, 4 metal connectors, and 5 breaker switches. All in all, I had about $533 in this part of the project, and it took me about 10 hours of work. So next we'll be installing the ceiling panels, so stay tuned for that. Should be good.